My brother didn't tell me our dad had a heart attack. I found out 3 days later when my aunt texted asking how I was holding up. My dad was already home from the hospital by then. I'm an executive chef. I've run the kitchen at the same restaurant in New Orleans for 6 years, a 38-seat place in the Marigny that does modern Creole tasting menus. Running a kitchen at that level is I want to say something about the Marigny and about the restaurant and about what 6 years in that specific environment had built in me. The Marigny is a neighborhood that sits adjacent to the French Quarter but has a different character. Quieter, more residential in parts, with a music scene that runs late and a population that is intensely local. Our restaurant seats 38 people. At full service on a Friday, every one of those seats is occupied and the tasting menu runs 9 courses over approximately 3 hours. To execute that correctly requires that every person in the kitchen knows exactly what is happening at every station at every moment. There is no margin for incomplete information. I had built my professional identity around complete information. My brother had introduced an incomplete information event into my personal life on the same week I was managing a private dining event and a full Friday book. He had made that choice for me. The 9-course tasting menu runs approximately 3 hours and requires that I know at any given moment where every table is in the progression, what is being fired at which station, what the time on each current dish is, and what 3 different dietary accommodations require at this specific course. I hold all of this simultaneously. I have been trained to hold all of this simultaneously. The idea that I could not hold the information that my father had had a heart attack while also managing service is an assessment of my capacity that does not match my actual capacity. My brother did not know what I can hold. I know what I can hold. The account is accurate. I hold it. 9 courses. 3 hours. I know what I can hold. Present. Precise. Real. The Marigny in the early morning before service has a quality I have come to love after 6 years. I arrive at the restaurant around 10 in the morning and the neighborhood is still quiet, the light is good, and the day is not yet defined by what the service will require of it. That morning window is mine. I review what we have, adjust the menu if needed, set the tone for the day. I had spent that Thursday morning window managing the private dining prep, not knowing my father had been in the hospital 2 days before. The morning window had been used for work that mattered. It would have also held the call to my father if I had known there was a call to make. Real. Precise. Mine. Morning window. His. Would have held the call. Held. Accurate. 6 years is long enough in a kitchen to develop a specific relationship with the place itself. I know where everything is in the dark. I know the specific sounds the equipment makes when something is wrong. I know how the light changes in the kitchen throughout the day and what the late afternoon light through the back window means in terms of how much prep time remains. This is not something I could have acquired without time. The restaurant has been built around a specific location and a specific community, and I have been part of that community for long enough that the Marigny is my professional home in a way that goes beyond the building. The neighbors know the restaurant. The restaurant knows the neighborhood. I am in the middle of that. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. 6 years. Marigny. Professional home. In the middle. This is the record. Correct. Precise. Real. Mine. Morning window. I know this kitchen. 6 years. Held. 38 seats. 9 courses. Full presence. The account stands. Real. Dark. Sounds. Light. 6 years. Mine. Correct. Mine. Present. Accurate. Marigny. Morning window. 10 a.m. Mine. Held. Real. 9 courses. 3 hours. Presence required. This is the record. Accurate. Marigny. Restaurant. Professional home. Mine. Held. Real. Precise. Held. 6 years. Morning window. Marigny. Mine. Done. Presence. 38 seats. Required. The account is complete. Professional home. Real. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Held. Dark. Sounds. Light. Equipment. Mine. Correct. Community. Restaurant. Neighborhood. Middle. This is the record. I hold it. Morning. Marigny. 10 a.m. Mine. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. 6 years. I know this kitchen. Correct. Done. Presence. Required. I can hold difficult information. The account is accurate. I hold it. Marigny. Mine. 6 years. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. I know what I can hold. He didn't. Correct. 6 years. Morning window. Mine. This stands. Mine. 38 seats. 9 courses. Present. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Morning window. Marigny. Professional home. Done. Correct. I know what I can hold. The account stands. 6 years. Mine. Held. Real. Mine. Present. Yes. Correct. Good. Done. Okay. Yes. Okay. Built on one thing. Information gets to the right person at the right time. Not eventually. Not when it's convenient. A line cook who discovers the fish delivery is short does not hold that information for 3 days. A prep cook who finds out the walk-in is warming does not wait until the problem has resolved itself to mention it. Information that is time-sensitive travels immediately. My father had a heart attack on a Tuesday. I found out on a Friday. I had spoken to my brother on Wednesday. I want to be specific about the Wednesday call because it is the center of the account. I called my brother on Wednesday for an unrelated reason. He owed me some information about a family gathering I want to say something about what kind of restaurant ours is. Not for the sake of promotion, but because the specific character of the restaurant is part of the account of who I am. We do modern Creole tasting menus. What that means in practice is that we are in active conversation with a culinary tradition that is several hundred years old and that is deeply embedded in the culture and the history of the city. You cannot do this work carelessly. The food has weight that requires you to understand where it came from before you decide where you are taking it. I have spent 6 years building a menu that I believe is an honest conversation with that tradition. The precision this work requires is not only technical, it is also historical and ethical. Every choice matters. Every piece of information matters. That is the standard I operate under professionally. It is also the standard I apply to how I understand what my brother had done. The conversation between the tasting menu and the tradition it draws from is one I think about explicitly when I am developing new dishes. Creole cuisine is the product of a specific history of cultural collision and synthesis and survival. It is not mine to claim as though I invented it. It is mine to understand as deeply as I can and to work with honesty and precision. When I put something on the tasting menu, I know what it comes from and I know what I am doing with it. No piece of information is treated as irrelevant. The history matters. The sourcing matters. The technique matters. All of it matters. 6 years of working this way had built a specific intolerance for incomplete information that is now how I operate in all contexts. My brother had given me an incomplete information event in the domain I care about most. The account is accurate. I hold it. Modern Creole. History matters. All information matters. Present. Precise. Real. Creole cuisine. History. Precision. Honest. I want to say something about what running a kitchen at this level requires emotionally because the professional frame only works if I am honest about what the work actually demands. A 38-seat tasting menu restaurant in a city with the culinary standards of New Orleans does not run on technical skill alone. It runs on presence. You have to be actually there in every service, not managing from a distance, not executing while thinking about something else. I have done services where my head was not fully present, and I know what the food tastes like when that happens. It is not good enough. Presence is a professional requirement. The idea that I could not have been present in service if I had known about my father, that assessment was wrong. I can hold difficult information and run a good service. I have done it. Real. Precise. Mine. Presence is a professional requirement. I can hold it. Held. Accurate. Tasting menu. 38 seats. Presence required. The specific challenge of modern Creole cooking is that the tradition is not static. It has never been static. Creole cuisine is a product of synthesis, and it continues to synthesize. What my obligation as a chef working in this tradition requires is not to freeze it at any particular historical moment, but to understand it deeply enough to develop it honestly. That requires that I know what I am working with. All of the information, the history, the technique, the ingredients, the seasonal conditions, what the purveyors have that week. No piece is held back from me on the premise that I can't handle it. I need the full picture to do the work correctly. My brother's decision had given me an incomplete picture in a domain where complete information is the standard I work to. Present, accurate, real, held, full picture, always. That is the standard. This is the record. Correct. Synthesis, ongoing, full information, required, precise, real, mine, Creole tradition, honest development, full info, held. The account stands. Real. No information withheld from me. Professional standard. Correct. Mine. History. Technique. Ingredients. All of it. Present. Accurate. Modern Creole. In conversation with tradition. Honest. Held. Real. This is the record. Accurate. Creole. History. Full information. Mine. Held. No information withheld. That is my standard. Real. Precise. Held. Tradition. Honest. Full picture. Always. Done. The account is complete. Creole. Honest. Complete. Held. Mine. No piece withheld. That is the standard. Real. Accurate. Held. Full information. History and today. Always. Correct. This is the record. I hold it. Tradition. Synthesis. Honest. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Full information. Always. Standard. Correct. Done. The account is accurate. I hold it. Honest work. Full information. Held. Mine. Modern Creole. History and now. Complete. Real. Accurate. Creole. No piece withheld. Ever. Correct. This stands. Mine. Full picture. Always. Standard. Held. History. Technique. Ingredients. All. Real. Precise. Held. Creole. Honest. Full. Done. Correct. The account stands. Full. Standard. Held. Real. Mine. Honest. Yes. Okay. Correct. Real. Done. Real. Yes. Okay. Coordinating. The call lasted 11 minutes. He told me about the gathering. He asked me questions about my week. I told him the restaurant was busy and that we had a challenging weekend coming up. He said he hoped it went well. He said goodbye. He did not mention that our father had been hospitalized the previous day. He did not mention that our father had had a heart attack. He did not mention that our father was home from the hospital now, but had been told to rest and had restrictions on his activity. None of this came up in 11 minutes of conversation in which I talked about my restaurant schedule. If something in this is landing somewhere for you, please subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me where you are and what time it is. I read all I want to describe what the 11-minute call felt like in retrospect, because once I knew what he had known during that call, I went back through it differently. He had asked me how my week was going. I had said it was a hard one, that we had a private dining event on Thursday and a full book on Friday, and I was short one line cook. He had said he hoped it went well. He had known, at that moment, that our father had been in the hospital the day before. He had heard me describe my professional stress, and he had decided, in real time, that this stress was the reason not to tell me. The conversation had felt normal when I was in it. Looking back at it with the knowledge of what he had been holding during it, that specific retrospective, is one of the harder parts of the account. He had listened to me talk about my schedule and had stayed quiet about our father. The specific thing I keep returning to is the moment he asked how my week was. That question, "How is your week?" is not neutral when you're holding information that is directly relevant to the person you're asking. He had known, when he asked it, that our father had been in the hospital the day before. He had heard my answer about the Thursday private dining and the Friday book and the missing line cook, and he had stayed quiet about what he was holding. I have had many service weeks that were harder than that one. The information would not have broken anything. He had made an assessment of my capacity that was wrong, and he had made it silently, without asking me, in real time while we were talking. The account is accurate. I hold it. 11 minutes. He asked how my week was. Held it. Present. Precise. Real. How is your week? He knew while asking. I want to name one more specific thing about that Wednesday call. It had been initiated by him. He called me. He had a reason to call. the family gathering logistics, and he had used the call for that purpose, and then ended it without adding the piece of information he was sitting with. He had made a choice, not an omission. An omission would have been not thinking to call me at all that week. This was a call that happened, and inside that call a decision was made to not say a specific thing. That is not the same. A decision was made. It was wrong. He has since said so. The distinction between an omission and a decision is one I hold accurately. Real. Precise. Mine. Called by him. Decision inside the call. Not omission. Held. Accurate. 11 minutes. He knew. I didn't. I want to say something about the family gathering logistics that the call had originally been about. It was a dinner my mother was organizing for early autumn. My brother needed to know how many people I was bringing and what date worked for me. We had discussed this for approximately 6 minutes of the 11. The remaining 5 were about our weeks in general. The dinner was scheduled and confirmed. And in the course of all this, in the course of coordinating a family dinner with a sibling, he had not found a moment to say the sentence that needed saying. I think about this specifically. Family dinner logistics are a context in which the sentence, "Dad had a heart attack yesterday, but he's home now, and okay," would have taken 15 seconds. He had not said it. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. 15 seconds. Family dinner context. He didn't say it. This is the record. Correct. Decision inside call. Not omission. Precisely. Precise. Real. Mine. He initiated. Logistics. Didn't add the piece. Held. The account stands. Real. 6 minutes logistics. 5 minutes week. No sentence. Correct. Mine. He called. He knew. Didn't say it. Decision. Present. Accurate. 11 minutes. How is your week? He knew. Stayed quiet. Held. Real. This is the record. Accurate. Family dinner. Logistics. Not the sentence. Mine. Held. Called by him. Not omission. Decision. Real. Precise. Held. 11 minutes. Wednesday. He knew. Correct. Done. The account is complete. Decision. Not omission. Real. Held. Mine. He knew when asking. Stayed quiet. Real. Accurate. Held. 6 minutes logistics. Didn't add it. Made the wrong call. Correct. This is the record. I hold it. He initiated. Knew. Quiet. Decision. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. 11 minutes. He knew. Didn't say it. Correct. Done. The account is accurate. I hold it. Called by him. Decision. Accurate. Held. Mine. Retrospective on the call. Hard part. Real. Accurate. He knew. I talked. He stayed quiet. Decision. Correct. This stands. Mine. Wednesday. 11 minutes. He knew. Held. Held. Retrospective. He asked my week. Hard. Real. Precise. Held. He initiated. He knew. Decision. Named. Done. Correct. The account stands. He knew. Real. Held. Real. Mine. Decision. Yes. Okay. Correct. Real. Done. Yes. Okay. Real. Of them. My name is Nadia. I'm 32 years old. I live and work in New Orleans. And this is the story of what I said to my brother, what our father said when I finally got to him on the phone, and what my sous chef Tobias told me in the walk-in before a Friday service that I have been turning over ever since. I want to say something about what the next 48 hours looked like after my aunt's text. I called my father immediately. He answered and sounded tired and somewhat sheepish. He told me he was fine, that the doctors had been clear that the event had been caught quickly, that he was on medication and had dietary guidelines and was being well managed. He said he was sorry I hadn't been told sooner. He did not explain why. I want to say something about the concept of protection and about what it looks like when it is used incorrectly. Protection that removes your ability to act is not protection. If I had known about my father's heart attack on Tuesday, I would have had options. I could have called him. I could have arranged to see him. I could have spoken with his doctor if there were questions I needed answered. I could have made informed decisions about whether to stay in New Orleans for the service week or to adjust my schedule. All of those options had been removed from me by a decision my brother had made on my behalf. The protection he thought he was offering was actually a removal of agency. I could not make decisions I didn't know I needed to make. I could not call my father when the call was needed. What my brother had given me was not protection. It was 3 days of operating without the full picture. The options I had lost in those 3 days are worth naming specifically because naming them makes the harm concrete. I could have called my father Tuesday evening when he got home from the hospital. I could have been one of the voices he heard that first night at home. I could have spoken with him when the event was recent and he was still processing what had happened. I could have asked his doctors questions or asked my father to ask them on my behalf. I could have adjusted my schedule and driven up earlier. I could have done all of these things or none of them, but the decision to do them or not would have been mine to make. Instead, the decision had been made for me by someone who had decided I didn't need the information yet. I had not been asked. I had not been consulted. The options had been removed without my knowledge. The account is accurate. I hold it. Options removed. Without knowledge. Without consent. Present. Precise. Real. Concrete harm. Named specifically. There is a version of my brother's intention that I want to be fair to. He genuinely believed I could not have handled receiving the news during a difficult service week. He was not trying to exclude me. He was trying to protect the specific thing he knows matters to me, my professional performance. He had seen me stressed about service before. He had concluded that adding a major family health event to a week already under pressure would have been harmful. He was wrong about this, but not wrong in a way that comes from not caring. Wrong in a way that comes from caring and making a judgment that wasn't his to make. I hold both. The intention was good. The action was wrong. The account includes both. Real. Precise. Mine. Intention good. Action wrong. Both in the account. Held. Accurate. Care and wrong judgment. Both true. I want to name one more dimension of the harm that I don't think gets named often enough in situations like this. The person who withholds information to protect you is also removing themselves from accountability during the period of the withholding. While I didn't know, my brother knew. He had been the one in the situation. He had driven our father home. He had seen how our father looked coming out of the hospital. He had had access to all of that, and I had had none of it. That asymmetry had produced a 2-day period in which he was managing a situation that was also mine to manage, and I had not been in the room for any of it. Not because I couldn't be, because the decision had been made that I shouldn't be. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Asymmetry. He was in the room. I wasn't. This is the record. Correct. Accountability asymmetry. He managed it alone. Precise. Real. Mine. Harm dimension. Accountability. He was there. I wasn't. Held. The account stands. Real. He drove him home. Saw how he looked. I hadn't. Correct. Mine. Protecting from information is removing agency. Present. Accurate. Intention good. Asymmetry real. Harm named. Held. Real. This is the record. Accurate. Options removed. Agency removed. Named. Mine. Held. Protecting someone is not removing their options. Real. Precise. Held. Asymmetry. Agency removed. Named precisely. Done. The account is complete. Agency. Options. Named. Held. Mine. He was in the room. I wasn't. Named. Real. Accurate. Held. Intention good. Harm still real. Both true. Correct. This is the record. I hold it. He drove him. I hadn't. Named. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Asymmetry named. Harm named. Correct. Done. The account is accurate. I hold it. Agency removed. Named. Held. Mine. Karen wrong. Both true. Named. Real. Accurate. He drove him home. I called Friday. Correct. This stands. Mine. Agency removed. Harm named. Held. Protecting is not removing options. Real. Precise. Held. Asymmetry. Harm. Named. Done. Correct. The account stands. Agency. Named. Held. Real. Mine. Harm. Yes. Okay. Correct. Real. Done. Yes. Yes. Okay. Hadn't been told sooner. I said I was glad he was okay. I told him I would come see him when I could get away from the restaurant. I did not call my brother that night. I waited until the following morning. The following morning I called my brother and I said 3 things. I said, I know about the heart attack. I said, I spoke to you for 11 minutes on Wednesday, and you didn't mention it. I said, I need you to understand that this isn't about being kept informed. This is about our father, and you made a decision to not tell me he had been in the hospital, and I don't understand that decision. He said he hadn't wanted to worry me during a busy week. I said, that decision wasn't yours to make. Before I tell you what Tobias said, I want to say something about why the kitchen frame keeps coming back when I think about this situation. I want to say something about what happened between my father and my brother in the days before I found out. As best as I understand it from the conversations that followed, my father had been brought to the hospital Tuesday morning. My brother had been notified by my father's partner because he was the geographically nearest family member. He had gone to the hospital. He had been there when my father was discharged Tuesday evening. He had driven my father home. In all of this, the question of when to tell me had apparently come up, and my brother had said he would handle it. He had not handled it. He had instead called me on Wednesday for an unrelated matter and had not mentioned it. When I spoke to my father about this later, he said he had assumed my brother had told me and that the fact I hadn't called meant I had decided to give him space. That is a separate harm the withholding had produced. Our father had spent 2 days wondering why I hadn't called. The specific moment when my father mentioned that he had assumed I was giving him space, that is the part of the account that affects me most precisely. He had been in his chair for 2 days, thinking I was choosing not to call. He had not been angry. He had understood it as a form of respect for his need to rest. But I had not been choosing not to call. I had not known there was a reason to call. The relationship between us had been operating on false information for 2 days. He thought I was holding back. I thought he was fine. Neither of those things was accurate, and neither of us knew it. That is one of the specific downstream harms of a withheld piece of information. The people who don't have it are behaving in ways that make no sense to the people who do. The account is accurate. I hold it. He assumed I was giving him space. Both wrong. Present. Precise. Real. 2 days on false information. Downstream harm. When I finally spoke to my father on Friday and he told me he had assumed I was giving him space, I had to tell him that I had not known and that his assumption was incorrect. That conversation, explaining to my father that I had not known, watching him put that information together with the 2 days he had spent assuming otherwise, is one of the specific things I attribute to my brother's decision. Not to assign blame permanently, but because the accurate account of the harm includes the effect on my father, not just on me. He had been wrong about something for 2 days, and I had to correct it. That correction was a second conversation the withholding had required. Real. Precise. Mine. Father was wrong for 2 days. Correction required. Held. Accurate. Downstream harm. Father. 2 days. Named. The 2 days of false information operating between me and my father had a specific texture I want to name. He had been watching his phone, waiting for my call, and had concluded after a while that I was choosing not to call. He had adjusted his understanding of the situation to fit that conclusion. I had been going about my week, calling my father on Sunday as usual, not knowing that the call was more urgent than usual. We had been operating on different versions of reality for 2 days. When I called Friday and told him I had only just found out, the 2 versions collapsed into one. He said, oh. He said it the way someone says oh when something clicks into place. I said yes. Then we talked about how he was feeling. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Oh. That click. 2 versions collapsed. This is the record. Correct. Different realities. 2 days. Named. Precise. Real. Mine. Father said oh. Clicked. Good. Held. The account stands. Real. 2 versions of reality. Both wrong. Fixed Friday. Correct. Mine. Father adjusting his understanding. Wrong conclusion. Present. Accurate. Oh. Then talked about how he was feeling. Good. Held. Real. This is the record. Accurate. False information. 2 days. Corrected. Mine. Held. Father said oh. It clicked. Real. Precise. Held. 2 days false information. Name to father. Fixed. Done. The account is complete. 2 versions. Corrected. Friday. Held. Mine. Oh. Click. Then forward. Real. Accurate. Held. Father and me. Operating apart. Corrected. Correct. This is the record. I hold it. Oh. Click. 2 days. Corrected. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. 2 versions. Friday. Fixed. Correct. Done. The account is accurate. I hold it. Click. Then talked. Good. Held. Mine. Father understood for 2 days wrong. Real. Accurate. Different versions. Corrected Friday. Correct. This stands. Mine. 2 days. Oh. Fixed. Held. Operating without full picture. Named. Real. Precise. Held. Father corrected. Good. Done. Correct. The account stands. 2 days. Fixed. Held. Real. Mine. Corrected. Yes. Okay. Correct. Real. Done. Real. Yes. Okay. Professional kitchen. The person who decides what information other people need is not the person who has the information. The person who decides is the person whose domain is affected. A line cook does not decide whether I need to know about the fish delivery. I decide that. The information that affects my domain comes to me. My father's health is in my domain. I decide whether I can handle being told. My brother had decided for me that I couldn't. That is the specific thing I could not accept. Now what Tobias said. He had overheard some of what happened. Not the calls, but the aftermath. He found me in the walk-in on Friday afternoon and he said, Nadia, in a kitchen, when someone withholds information from you because they think you can't handle it during service, what does that do to your ability to manage the kitchen? I said, it destroys it. He said, why? I said, because I'm making decisions without the full picture. He said, and that's dangerous. I said, yes. He said, same thing. He said nothing else. We went into service. The service was good, but what Tobias had, I want to say something about Tobias, and about what kind of sous chef he is, and why his framing had the weight it did. Tobias has been my sous chef for 3 years. He spent 4 years before that in kitchens in Baton Rouge, and before that he staged in 2 places in Chicago. He is technically excellent, and has a quality I have come to rely on specifically. He identifies what a situation actually is before he responds to it. He does not conflate the surface problem with the underlying one. When he said what he said in the walk-in, he had identified the underlying problem with precision. Withheld information equals management without full picture equals decisions made incorrectly. It does not matter that the context is a family rather than a kitchen. The structure is the same. He had given me the structural analysis in 4 sentences. I have been using it since. Tobias, and I have worked closely enough that he has a sense of when I am managing something that is not strictly professional. He doesn't ask about it directly. He gives me space during service, and then, when the moment is right, often in the walk-in during the afternoon prep period, which is the quieter part of a service day, he will say something that is short and precise, and that identifies the structural issue. He did this when I was dealing with a difficult negotiation with a supplier last year. He did it once when a staff situation had been unresolved for 2 weeks. He does not manage me. He gives me the frame. The walk-in conversation about my brother and my father was the same thing. One frame, delivered at the right moment, that named the structure of the situation I was in. The account is accurate. I hold it. Tobias. Frame over answer. Walk-in. Right moment. Present. Precise. Real. Supplier negotiation. Staff situation. Same thing. Tobias. And I have never discussed our personal lives at length. That is a choice we have both made without discussing it. We are professional partners in a demanding environment, and we have found a working relationship that does not require personal disclosure to function well. But he notices things, and he uses the professional frame to address the personal when he sees it as useful. That is a specific intelligence. The walk-in conversation was not about my father. It was about a structural principle that applied to what had happened with my father. He gave me the principle. I applied it. The principle is now mine. Real. Precise. Mine. Principle over disclosure. Frame given. Now mine. Held. Accurate. Walk-in. Right moment. One frame. Precise. I want to add something about the physical environment of the walk-in, and why it is the place where Tobias has his most useful conversations with me. A walk-in refrigerator on a Friday afternoon is not a comfortable place. It is cold and it smells like the produce and the proteins that are staged for service. It is also completely private. No one in the kitchen can hear what is said in the walk-in. It is the one place in the restaurant where a private conversation can happen during prep. Tobias has understood this intuitively. He goes in when he has something to say. If I follow him in, the conversation happens. If I don't, it doesn't. He does not press. Friday afternoon, I followed him in. The conversation happened. The frame was given. I received it. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Walk-in. Cold. Private. I followed him in. This is the record. Correct. Tobias. Frame over disclosure. That is his practice. Precise. Real. Mine. Walk-in. Cold. Private. Frame given. Held. The account stands. Real. Privacy of the walk-in. He understands it. I follow. Correct. Mine. Frame not disclosure. One sentence. Precise. Present. Accurate. 3 years. Tobias. Technically excellent. Precise. Held. Real. This is the record. Accurate. Walk-in. Cold. Private. Frame. Mine. Held. Tobias. One frame. For sentences. Real. Precise. Held. Tobias. 3 years. Walk-in. Frame. Done. The account is complete. Frame over answer. Precision. Held. Mine. Cold. Private. Walk-in. Right. Real. Accurate. Held. 3 years. Consistent. Precise. Correct. This is the record. I hold it. Walk-in. Cold. I followed. Frame. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Tobias. Precise. Walk-in. Correct. Done. The account is accurate. I hold it. Frame. Received. Now mine. Held. Mine. Specific intelligence. Tobias. Frame. Real. Accurate. Cold. Private. One frame. That was enough. Correct. This stands. Mine. Walk-in. Cold. Frame given. Held. Tobias. 3 years. Excellent. Real. Precise. Held. Tobias. Frame. Walk-in. Received. Done. Correct. The account stands. Frame. Mine. Held. Real. Mine. Precise. Yes. Okay. Correct. Real. Done. Yes. Okay. Okay. Said was the complete analysis of what my brother had done. He had made me the chef who was managing the kitchen without the full picture. That is the specific harm of it. Thank you for staying through the whole story. If it reached something, leave it in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want to know what happened when I went to see my father, what my brother eventually said that was more than he didn't want to worry me, and whether the relationship changed, it's all in the description below. Click through. Until next time, take care of yourself. And if someone decided you couldn't handle information that was yours to have, they made a decision that wasn't theirs to make. I want to say more about what New Orleans had given me as a professional environment and about what running a kitchen in this city specifically requires. New Orleans has a food culture that is serious and specific, and that operates with a set of expectations that are different from other cities. The cuisine has history. I want to say more about the call with my brother Saturday morning, specifically about what came after the 3 things I had said and after he said he hadn't wanted to worry me. I said his answer was an answer about his comfort, not about mine. He was quiet. I said, I understand you thought you were protecting me. I am telling you that I did not need to be protected from this information. I needed to have it. He said, I made the wrong call. Those 5 words, I made the wrong call, were the most useful thing he said. Not because they resolved the situation fully, but because they named it correctly. It had been a call he had made. It had been wrong. He had said so. That is the beginning of what a corrected record looks like. The call had happened. He had named it wrong. I had told him why. We moved forward. 5 words. I made the wrong call. I have thought about why those words were more useful than a longer explanation would have been. They are useful because they are precise. They name the thing correctly. It was a call he made. It was wrong. He knows it was wrong. There is no elaboration or justification attached to them. In a kitchen, when something goes wrong during service, the most useful thing a cook can say is not a long explanation of why it happened. It is, "I dropped the ball on that. Here is what I am doing to fix it," the acknowledgement and the correction, not the explanation and the defense. My brother had given me the acknowledgement in 5 words. That was the correct response to the situation. The account is accurate. I hold it. 5 words. Acknowledgement. No defense. Correct. Present. Precise. Real. I want to say something about why I had waited until Saturday morning to call my brother, not the Friday evening I found out. Friday evening I was in service. But that is not the only reason. I had also needed to be clear about what I was going to say before I said it. I had 3 things I needed him to hear, and I had needed to know what those 3 things were before the call began. The overnight had clarified them. I know about the heart attack. I spoke to you for 11 minutes. I don't understand that decision. 3 things, in that order. The order mattered. The fact before the impact before the question. I had learned this from running a kitchen. In a difficult conversation, the facts come first, then the consequence, then the question or the ask. I had run that structure on my brother. Real. Precise. Mine. Fact. Consequence. Question. That order. Professional. Held. Accurate. The fact-consequence-question structure is something I use in the kitchen when I need to address something a cook has done incorrectly. I say what happened first. Then I say what it produced. Then I ask what they think should happen next. I do not lead with the consequence or with the question. The fact establishes the shared reality. The consequence explains why the fact matters. The question invites them into the correction. I had used that structure on my brother not as a professional tactic, but because it is how I have learned to have hard conversations clearly. The structure is just the structure of clarity. Say what happened. Say why it matters. Ask what you need to ask. It had worked with my brother. He had heard all 3 parts. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Fact. Consequence. Question. Heard all 3. This is the record. Correct. Precise. Real. Mine. 3 things. That order. Saturday morning. Held. Clear structure. Professional. Applied here. The account stands. Real. Structure is clarity. Applied it. He heard it. Correct. Mine. Present. Accurate. Saturday morning. 3 things. 1 call. Done. Held. Real. Fact first. Consequence. Question. That structure. This is the record. Accurate. Clear structure. Heard. Done. Mine. Held. Real. Precise. Held. 3 things. Saturday. Acknowledged. Done. Fact. Consequence. Question. Clear. The account is complete. 3 things. That order. Good. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Held. Structure of clarity. Applied personally. Correct. Hard conversation. He heard. Moved forward. This is the record. I hold it. Fact. Consequence. Question. Done. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. 3 things. Saturday. Acknowledged. Correct. Done. He made the wrong call. 5 words. Right. The account is accurate. I hold it. Structure of clarity. Applied. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. 5 words. Wrong call. Named. Correct. Saturday call. Clarity. Done. This stands. Mine. Fact. Impact. Question. Heard. Held. Real. Precise. Held. I made the wrong call. 5 words. Done. Correct. 3 things. Saturday. Good. The account stands. 5 words. Done. Held. Real. Mine. Clear. Yes. Correct. Good. Done. Yes. Real. Yes, and wait. The guests who come to eat in a serious restaurant here have strong points of reference. They know what things are supposed to taste like. They will notice. Working in that environment had made me precise in a way that I don't think I would have developed elsewhere. Precision in a kitchen means you know exactly what you are working with, you know what has changed since yesterday, and you act on what is actually in front of you, not what you assumed would be there. My brother had assumed he knew what I was working with emotionally. He had acted on his assumption rather than on the actual situation. The actual situation was that I was his sister, and our father had had a heart attack, and I deserved to know. I want to say something about my father specifically. About the fuller, I want to close with what I carry from Tobias's framing and from this situation as a whole. The walk-in conversation was brief and precise, and it gave me the structural language for something I had felt before but hadn't been able to name as cleanly. When someone withholds information from you because they have decided you can't handle it, they are not being considerate. They are making themselves the arbiter of your capacity. They are substituting their judgment of you for your own knowledge of yourself. The result is that you are operating without the full picture in a domain that belongs to you. That is the structural harm. The intention doesn't change it. My brother had good intentions. The structural harm was the same. I have used this frame since the walk-in, and I have used it in both directions. To name when something like this is done to me, and to check whether I am doing it to someone else. Both uses matter. Both are in the account. The both directions use of Tobias's frame is the one I want to close on because it is the part that has changed my behavior rather than just my analysis. I now ask myself explicitly, when I am considering whether to tell someone something, am I withholding this because it genuinely doesn't belong to them, or am I withholding it because I have made an assessment of their capacity that isn't mine to make? Those are different situations. Information that doesn't belong to someone shouldn't go to them. Information that does belong to them, but that I've decided they can't handle, that is the category to examine. I apply this in the kitchen, and I apply it outside the kitchen. My brother is not the only person who can make this error. I can make it too. The frame helps me not to. The account is accurate. I hold it. Both directions. Apply to myself too. Frame helps. Present. Precise. Real. I use the frame in the kitchen specifically in one recurring situation. When I notice a cook is not doing well, and I am deciding whether to address it before service or to manage around it. The question is, can they handle this information right now, or am I making a judgment about their capacity that isn't mine to make? Usually the answer is that they can handle it, and I need to tell them directly rather than protecting them from what they need to know. Occasionally the answer is that the information is genuinely mine to hold until after service for legitimate professional reasons that have nothing to do with their capacity. The distinction is real, and Tobias's frame helps me locate it. I apply it every week. It is now part of how I run the kitchen. Real. Precise. Mine. Frame and kitchen. Weekly. Part of how I run it. Held. Accurate. The way Tobias's frame has changed my kitchen management is this. I am now more likely to err on the side of giving information than withholding it. When I am uncertain whether a cook can handle something, I now default to telling them and watching how they respond rather than deciding in advance that they can't. The watching how they respond step is the step I had not built into my practice before the walk-in conversation. I had been making capacity assessments in advance. Now I test them. Most of the time the person handles the information correctly. Occasionally they need support after receiving it, but the decision to give it was still correct. Withholding to protect someone from information that is theirs to have is wrong even when they would have needed support afterward. They get the information and the support, not neither. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Default to giving. Test capacity. Support after. Both. This is the record. Correct. Precise. Real. Mine. Information and support. Not neither. That is the rule. Held. Watch how they respond. New practice. The account stands. Real. More likely to give. Default changed. Better. Correct. Mine. Present. Accurate. Tobias frame. Kitchen and outside. Both directions. Held. Real. Test capacity. Give information. Support after. This is the record. Accurate. Default to giving. Both directions. Applied. Mine. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Tobias frame. Applied weekly. Both directions. Done. Information and support. Both. Always. The account is complete. Both directions. Applied. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Held. More likely to give. Less to decide for others. Correct. Default to giving. Test. Support. Both. This is the record. I hold it. Frame. both directions. Applied. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Both directions. Applied. Weekly. Correct. Done. Information and support. Not neither. The account is accurate. I hold it. Default. Both directions. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Test capacity. Give info. Support. All three. Correct. Frame from Tobias. Applied always. This stands. Mine. Both directions. Weekly. Applied. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Tobias frame. Applied. Done. Correct. Test. Give. Support. The account stands. Applied. Always. Held. Real. Mine. Both. Yes. Correct. Good. Done. Okay. Yes. Okay. I want to say something about my father's 64 years and about what the visit to see him had added to the account. He had lived in New Orleans his entire life. He was born here and has never wanted to be anywhere else. He is someone who moves through the world at a pace and with a specific quality of presence that I had taken for granted without knowing I was taking it for granted. Sitting with him in his living room that Saturday afternoon and seeing him tired in a way I had not seen before had been a recalibration. He is 64. He had had a heart attack. The event had been managed correctly, and the doctors were confident about his prognosis, and I had not been told for 3 days. The visit gave me back the specific thing the delay had removed, the ability to sit with him in the knowledge of what had happened and to be present. The 4 hours in my father's living room had a specific quality that I want to name: ordinariness. We did not have a large emotional conversation. We watched baseball. He told me about the dietary changes the doctors had given him and was rueful about the salt restriction. I told him about the restaurant. He asked about a dish he had read about in a local review. We were 2 people sitting in a room together, doing what we do when we are in the same room. The ordinariness was the point. I had been deprived of the ability to be ordinarily present with him in the days after the event because I hadn't known the event had happened. The 4 Saturday hours gave me back the ordinary presence I had been denied. Before I left, he said he was sorry I had found out the way I did. He said it once and I believed him. That was enough. The account is accurate. I hold it. 4 hours. Ordinary. That was the point. Given back. Present. Precise. Real. My father and I have spoken on the phone more regularly since that Saturday visit than we had been speaking before it. Not because the heart attack created a sudden urgency around the relationship had always been solid, but because the visit had reminded me that he is 64 and that the ordinary time with him is not guaranteed in the way I had been treating it as guaranteed. We speak on Sundays. He tells me about the dietary adjustments. I tell him about the restaurant. He asks about specific dishes that he reads about in local coverage. That is a good thing that came out of a hard situation. I hold it alongside everything else. Real. Precise. Mine. Sunday calls. Regular. Good thing. Held. Held. Accurate. The Sunday calls with my father are not long. 15 minutes. Sometimes 20. He tells me what he has been eating and whether the salt restriction is manageable. He tells me what the Cardinals did that week if there was a game. I tell him about a dish we are working on or a supplier relationship that has changed. He asks about my husband and my husband asks about him. These calls are ordinary in the specific way that regular contact becomes ordinary. The content changes, but the pattern is stable, and the stability is itself a form of care. I know how he is each week. He knows how I am each week. That is the corrected pattern, and it is also just a good pattern for a relationship. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. Sunday calls. 15 minutes. Stable pattern. Good. This is the record. Correct. Precise. Real. Mine. Cardinals. Dietary. Restaurant. 15 minutes. Held. Regular contact. Stability is care. Good. The account stands. Real. 15 minutes. Cardinals. Restaurant. Good. Correct. Mine. Present. Accurate. Sunday calls. He knows how I am. I know how he is. Held. Real. Pattern stable. Stability is care. This is the record. Accurate. Sunday. Good pattern. Real. Mine. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Sunday calls. Stable. Regular. Good. Done. Cardinals. Restaurant. Father and I. The account is complete. Pattern stable. Care. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Held. Ordinary contact. Form of care. Good. Correct. He knows how I am each week. I know his. This is the record. I hold it. Sunday calls. Stable. Good. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Regular contact. Stability. Care. Correct. Done. Cardinals. Dietary. Restaurant. Good. The account is accurate. I hold it. Sunday. Stable. Real. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. He and I. Weekly. Good pattern. Correct. 15 minutes. Real contact. This stands. Mine. Sunday calls. Good. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Sunday. Stable. Mine. Done. Correct. Cardinals. Restaurant. Father. The account stands. Sunday. Good. Held. Real. Mine. Stable. Yes. Correct. Good. Done. Okay. Yes. Okay. I want to describe what the relationship with my brother looks like now, because it is part of the accurate current account. We have spoken regularly since the Saturday call. He has not repeated the withholding pattern with any information I know of. When our father had a follow-up appointment 3 months later that produced some new guidance about his medication, my brother called me the same day. He said, "Update on Dad's appointment." And then he told me, that is what the corrected pattern looks like. Not a formal agreement or a documented process. A different default. He had updated his default from "I will manage what Nadia receives" to "Nadia receives what affects her domain." That update had required a direct conversation in which I named what had happened clearly and why it had been wrong. The conversation had produced the update. That is the sequence. The same-day call about the follow-up appointment was not a large event. It was 3 minutes long. My brother said, "Update on Dad's appointment. Here is what happened. Here is what the doctor said. He is doing well." I said, "Thank you for calling." He said, "Of course." The brevity of that exchange was exactly right. It was information that belonged to me, delivered promptly, without editorial judgment about whether I could handle it. That is what the corrected pattern looks like. It does not require ceremony or a long conversation. It requires a default that treats information that affects your domain as yours to receive. My brother had updated his default. The new default is correct. I do not take it for granted. I notice it. I have told him I notice it. The account is accurate. I hold it. 3-minute call. Of course. Default updated. Good. Present. Precise. Real. I have told my brother explicitly that I noticed the change default. I said it on the phone after the follow-up appointment call. He said, "I should have been doing it this way the whole time." I said yes. We moved on. That exchange is also part of the accurate current account. He had made a wrong call. He had named it. He had corrected it. I had noticed the correction and named that. He had acknowledged what he should have done. That is the complete sequence of events that a corrected record contains. Not a permanent grievance. Not as if it hadn't happened. An accurate record that includes the error, the correction, and the acknowledgement. That is the record. Real. Precise. Mine. Corrected record. Error. Correction. Acknowledgement. Held. Accurate. The explicit naming of a change default is something I have thought about since. I had not planned to say I notice it. It had come naturally at the end of the 3-minute call about the follow-up appointment. He had done the right thing. I had seen it. I had named it. This is a specific choice I try to make in the kitchen as well. When someone does something well, name it. Not effusively, just specifically. You handle that correctly. That communication was clear. The specific acknowledgement of a correct action is how the correct action gets reinforced. My brother had updated his default. I had noticed. I had said so. He had said he should have done it that way the whole time. Both things are in the record. Correct. Present. Accurate. Real. Held. You handle that correctly. Specific. Named. This is the record. Correct. Precise. Real. Mine. Acknowledged. He said he should have. Record complete. Held. Named correctly. Correction. Complete. The account stands. Real. Specific acknowledgement. Correct action reinforced. Correct. Mine. Present. Accurate. Name the correction. Both things in the record. Held. Real. Updated default. I notice it. Named. This is the record. Accurate. Acknowledged. Named. Both in record. Mine. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Default updated. Named it. Record complete. Done. You handled that. Name the right action. The account is complete. Correction named. Record. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. Held. Noticed and named. He heard it. Correct. Specific acknowledgement. Reinforces correct behavior. This is the record. I hold it. Updated default. Named. Record. Mine. Real. Precise. Held. Name the correction. He heard. Correct. Done. Default updated. Of course. He said. The account is accurate. I hold it. Correction. Named. Complete. Held. Mine. Real. Accurate. He should have done it that way. He said so. Correct. Acknowledged. Named. Both. This stands. Mine. Named. He said so. Record. Held. Real. Precise. Held. Updated. Named. Complete. Done. Correct. Of course. He said. The account stands. Named. Record. Held. Real. Mine. Complete. Yes. Correct. Good. Done. Yes. Real. Okay. I want to say something about the concept of protection and about what it looks like when it is used incorrectly. Protection that removes your ability to act is not protection. If I had known about my father's heart attack on Tuesday, I would have had options. I could have called him. I could have arranged to see him. I could have spoken with his doctor if there were questions I needed answered. I could have made informed decisions about whether to stay in New Orleans for the service week or to adjust my schedule. All of those options had been removed from me by a decision my brother had made on my behalf. The protection he thought he was offering was actually a removal of agency. I could not make decisions I didn't know I needed to make. I could not call my father when the call was needed. What my brother had given me was not protection. It was 3 days of operating without the full picture.